Christmas 2023, a full slate of games, 5 NBA games, 3 NFL games. Start off with the Chiefs and Raiders. Wow, Chiefs. Really, you could not beat the Raiders. At home. Christmas Day. The Raiders could be worse. They're not the worst. But the Chiefs deserve to lose. Patrick Mahomes is having his worst season, and in all fairness, his receiver play has been poor. I mean, there have been more drops by his receivers than any other team in the league, so it's not all Patrick Mahomes, but this is an off season for him. This is the worst season he has had statistically and even just using your own eyes. He still makes plays that wows us. He does things that only he can do. That this is a far cry from what the Chiefs used to be. And with this loss, I mean, it was embarrassing the way the Chiefs acted and behaved, including Mahomes. I mean, actually, right at the front of the line, Mahomes, when they lost the Bills. But then losing today, I mean, just whiny. I mean, it just looks like they're so whiny out there. I mean, it just looks like he's talking to himself on the sideline, and Kelsey throwing his helmet. I mean, this is how you guys act when everything doesn't go your way, huh? When you're not on top of the football world. Not so pleasant. Not so funny. Chiefs are certainly not the best team in the AFC. They're not the second best team in the AFC. They are the third best team in the AFC. And if they're going to go far, they're going to have to do it with some road wins this year. That uncharted territory for the Chiefs. Second game. The Giants and Eagles. The Eagles win. They, in a way, escape with a win. And I just don't know how you can feel good about yourself if you're the Eagles. You show up on Christmas and the Giants are hanging there with you, and they made it a close game. The Eagles get their win. The losing streak is over. But how can you enter the playoffs with any confidence? How can you? I don't know. I mean, could they really lose a first-round game at home? And no one's scared of them right now. No one is scared of the Eagles like no one is scared of the Chiefs. Those two teams, it's serious that they have not been the same since they played each other. That big matchup, it was called Game of the Year, have not been the same since. Okay, you get the win, but what are you going to look like against real competition? I don't know. They have been exposed. And then finally, the game I'm really concentrating on is 49ers-Ravens. Said to be Super Bowl preview. Still could be. And I'm taking this more from a 49ers perspective. 49ers had to play on Thanksgiving and Christmas. This was in San Francisco, or I should say Santa Clara. It was the Ravens' day. And I think the most frustrating part about this was you had the two top seeds, which is really unique for this time of season. Both 11-3 teams. And the 49ers started off well. I mean, they were able to pass the ball. They were able to run the ball. But didn't convert into points. And statistically, this was the worst game of Brock Purdy's career. And he saved it for this game. He threw 4 interceptions. They were not all on him. But he made his mistakes. And, 49ers went right down the field. And, like I said, the first couple of possessions, they did what they wanted on offense against the Ravens. I mean, the box score does not tell the whole story. It is misleading if that's all you're going to look at. The first interception by Hamilton. That was not the game, but it certainly changed the feel of the game. If the 49ers score right there a touchdown, and it's 7-0, I think it is a very different game. Now, the turnovers were a problem, and coming this game, I was saying what I believe the two things you had to look at were the line of scrimmage. Could the 49ers stop the Ravens' running game, and the turnover battle, because these two quarterbacks coming into this game do not turn the football over. And the better quarterback on the field, let me give the credit to Lamar Jackson. He was the better quarterback on the field. No question about it. He was not spectacular. He had a 30-yard run, very nice, but he made the smart plays. He extended plays. He didn't make the mistakes. And I'm not calling him a game manager by doing that. I'm not. He made the intelligent plays, and he made enough plays. And the Ravens were able to run the ball just enough. The 49ers have two weaknesses. It's this. The offensive line and special teams. Offensive line, special teams, minus Wishnowsky. Wishnowsky's great. I still have my questions about Moody, and until McLeod comes back, I have my questions about the kicking and punt returning duties. The advantage that the Ravens had was that, they've got Justin Tucker. They have Justin Tucker. And if it was a close game, I thought that was going to be the case. The advantage of Ravens. But, the whole question about the line of scrimmage, it just didn't matter because, the Ravens ran away with it. And it wasn't as close as the final score may indicate. It wasn't a blowout, but it was a convincing win. As Kyle Shanahan had an okay game coaching, but I do believe he was outcoached, in the end by John Harbaugh. And the Ravens have had the 49ers number over the years. It goes back to Thanksgiving 2011, Super Bowl 2012, the big rain game in 2019, and this one in 2023, Christmas Day. Very underrated coach. He's an excellent coach. He's won the one Super Bowl, but his teams are always so well prepared, disciplined, they play smart, they follow his lead. And the 49ers, Purdy had the turnovers. It was, I would say, his worst game as a professional. But the mistakes just came at the wrong time. And you cannot have 5 turnovers in a game like this and win, even if you're at home. And the fact that, the turnovers were coming and they were coming fast. And the Ravens took advantage of it. Great teams take advantage of other teams' mistakes, and they did that. Ravens just played a very clean game. They capitalized on 49er mistakes. They're just too good. To give them short fields, too. The defense, for the most part, played well. I do have to say, even though Purdy was better than his stats showed, he was the primary reason why they lost. I was just surprised he got rattled like he did. He could have had more interceptions than he did. But what makes the Ravens tough matchup for the 49ers is, yes, Lamar Jackson, but they're very physical. Very physical team. And they are perhaps the only team in the NFL that can match the 49ers' physicality. They can... It's not that they're shutting down the 49ers playmakers, but they can limit the yards after catch better than any other team I can think of. They're a good tackling team. Like I said, they're very good up the middle on defense. They've got a good D-line, and then you have the linebackers who can match the 49ers linebackers. Queen and Smith, and then Hamilton at safety, who's all over the place. And the thing about him is he can play physical, but then he can also cover too. It's a rare combination. But it just got away from him. I mean, you're going to have your bad games, and perhaps this one is one you can not completely throw away, but you can learn from it. You can be more sharp and go into the playoffs playing better than this. And sometimes a loss can do some good things and force you to make some adjustments and not get too comfortable. Because how many times have we seen teams just rolling into the playoffs and then an unexpected loss comes early in the playoffs, and it's an early exit in the playoffs, especially in the divisional round. I mean, just think 15-1 Packers. I mean, that's as good of an example as any, and there were other reasons to that, why that happened, which we won't get into. You know, you look at the offense, George Kittle was excellent. He had over 100 yards receiving. You know, McCaffrey just didn't end up being too much of a factor because they were playing catch-up in the run game. For what he did, he was very good. And then, you know, the offensive line did let him down. And they did let Brock Purdy down at times. Defense, I'm not going to get on the defense. I mean, I think they did all right over. Hargrave was good. It was great having him back. I think Chase Young had a very solid game. I mean, Nick Bosa, no sacks, but he was close a lot of times. He had 3 tackles for a loss. I mean, he made an impact. You know, Fred Warner, he made several impactful plays, but to me, he and Greenlaw did not have great games. Better than they had last week, but they too need to clean it up. Overall, I thought the secondary was fine. You know, the problem with them was they had to cover for so long. And, you know, Lamar Jackson just extends plays unlike anyone else. And when you're asking guys to cover for that long, when you have these second and third chances and opportunities, it's asking for a whole lot. So the 49ers can still get the number 1 seed in the NFC. They still have it right now. They got games against the Commanders. I wish I was saying the Redskins. The Commanders and the Rams. And the Ravens are definitely the best team in the AFC. They are the best team in the conference. And after a win like this, a convincing win, they are the best team in the NFL. I mean, can they do it in the playoffs? Yes, that is yet to be seen. I mean, they could get knocked off. Can Lamar continue playing like this? Well, we'll have to see, because when you look at all the quarterbacks right now in the league, everyone who's in the hunt, the only guy who's got it done on the big stage is Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he's the only quarterback that's in the playoff picture that has won it all. You know, Lamar hasn't done it. Josh Allen hasn't done it. Joe Burrow, well, it doesn't matter now, but he hasn't done it. Impressive young quarterbacks. And then you look over at the NFC. Brock Purdy, this was a bad game. I expect him to do better, but, you know, we haven't seen him in the championship game. We haven't seen him in a Super Bowl. And, you know, if they played that game again, let's just say 9 out of 10 times, I would think what happened tonight would be the worst game the 49ers would play. And let's just say 10 times they faced the Ravens. That's what I imagine. That's what I see. It could have been a lot better, and if they execute early, could have been a very different outcome. But let me say the Ravens did deserve to win the game. But getting back to the NFC quarterbacks, you know, Jalen Hurts last year was good enough to win But he's not the same quarterback this year. He's not even close to the same quarterback he was last year. And Dak Prescott, are you kidding me? When the pressure's on? No. No, no, no. So, Ravens best overall. 49ers are still the best and are much better than the Eagles or Cowboys. The statement win by the Ravens. Going back to Sunday's game, just two games I'm going to comment on. Cowboys and Dolphins. These two teams are very close, and they have the same kinds of problems. But the Dolphins beat the Cowboys, and I kept saying, well, let's see what happens with the Cowboys once they have to travel, play on grass, play outside against some better teams. And look what's happening. They did beat an Eagles team that was reeling and struggling mightily after the loss to the 49ers, and they should have lost to the Bills. Okay, they took care of business against them, but then they escape with, a win against Seattle too. But then, look what happens when you get them on the road. They lost on a grass field to the Cardinals. They got blown out by the 49ers on grass. They were defeated by the Eagles and on grass, and then with a little rain and being outside, they lose the Bills. And then, yes, it was a close one, but the Cowboys lose to the Dolphins. And I remind us all, Cowboys have not been to a Super Bowl. Forget about winning a Super Bowl. They have not been to a Super Bowl in almost 30 years. Yet, they are the biggest talking point in the sport. And why do we have to always talk about them? The reason I'm bringing it up is just to stick it to them because they deserve that. They, for the most part, cannot get it done in the big games, and they should have. Tyron Smith was out, okay. But then in fairness, the Dolphins were out without their number 2 receiver and their number 1 running back. And I'm always told this is a great Dallas defense. And their great defense had the opportunity to stop the Dolphins and win the game. They couldn't do it, and they lose. And the conversation of Dak Prescott being MVP as a wild card quarterback needs to end. And I admit, tonight, Brock Purdy being outplayed by Lamar Jackson, he's most likely out of the conversation too. I think McCaffrey should still get consideration, but I'd say it's between Lamar Jackson and Christian McCaffrey right now for MVP. But I don't really care about regular season MVPs that much. I mean, they do certainly matter. But when you've already won one, like Lamar Jackson, it's like, okay, I want to win Super Bowl MVP. And I don't even care so much about winning Super Bowl MVP. I want to win the Super Bowl. The Cowboys lose, and that was an early Christmas present, a Christmas Eve present. The other present that we had, the Warriors lost, the 49ers lost, but the Lakers lost today, and that does make me feel better. They lost the Celtics on their home court, and of those two teams, the Cowboys and Lakers, they've all the attention they receive makes you want to rip your hair out. But I'll at least give the Lakers this. They have won championships this century. They have been in championships. They have been a relevant team. And, when you have an all-time great player like LeBron James, perhaps the greatest who's ever played, I can accept the fact that you get the attention you get and receive more than the Cowboys. And then the final thing for tonight was the Lions are going to the playoffs. They won their division. I think they could easily lose in the first round to the Seahawks or the Rams because Cowboys, and it's almost certain the Cowboys and Buccaneers are going to have a rematch again. in the wild card round. I could see the Rams or Seahawks going into Detroit and defeating the Lions, but let's let the Lions enjoy this. They have actually won the division. They will host a home playoff game, which, has never happened in the history of Ford Field. I mean, the last time the Lions have hosted a playoff game was when they had the Silver Dome, okay? We'll see what they have, but Dan Campbell, he's done a fine job. He has changed the culture. Players have bought in. I'm not sold on Jared Goff, but they have the team going in the right direction, and I expect them to be a playoff team again. We'll see how good they can get. To review AFC, it's the top three: Ravens, Dolphins, Chiefs. NFC, 49ers, Eagles, Lions, Cowboys. I mean, do you need any other playoff teams in there, though, really? I think those are only 4 teams you need. In the AFC, the Jaguars haven't played well, but, if I was just to pick 4, I'd go with Ravens, Dolphins, Chiefs, and Browns would be my top 4 teams in the AFC. Though, yeah, the Bills have, for so long underperformed and did not play up to the level they should have. They'll make it interesting, but, as I say every year, I would say let's just skip to the divisional round. I'm all for the divisional round. That's where the best football is played. In my opinion, the best weekend of playoff games in any sport, especially when we're talking about the NFL. It's the best weekend of the season.